In this part of the documentary, we will visit some of the ancient fire temples of Kerman province, and we will revisit the ancient Iranian beliefs, common faiths, and confusion in the belief system and religious texts of ancient Iranians. Gathering this valuable information demands extensive study and research, along with significant time and financial investment in video preparation. We appreciate your support in this endeavor by sharing the video and subscribing to our channel. We will start our trip by visiting a fire temple in the Orzoiye region of Kerman province. 4 kilometers from a village called Sultan Abad, a beautiful stone 4-arched building can be seen in the following geographical coordinates. (28°, 22 minutes, 21 seconds north, 56 degrees, 14 minutes, 11 seconds east. The 4-arched building has an area of about 26 by 30 meters, but the remains, the connecting corridors, and the surrounding facilities, as well as the remains of the river that has dried up, indicate the existence of an important fire temple in the glorious past. The dimensions of the entire area are 80 by 95 meters. The height of the arch is 4.6 meters, and the fire temple is made of stone and mortar. This building dates back to the Sassanid period, the time that will be the beginning of our story. In the general public's belief, Iranians were all Zoroastrians before the invasion of Muslim Arabs. But in fact, Iran has witnessed changes and complications in the religion of the land itself over the centuries. It has also been considered a land of different ideas and religious diversity since long ago. In Ardavirafname, the book of Ardaviraf, the story of the journey of a Zoroastrian cleric to heaven, inferno, and purgatory, one can comprehend the version of the religion propagated by the Sassanid government of the time. At the beginning of this book, it is stated that Zoroastrianism was in chaos after Alexander's attack on Iran, and the divine texts, as well as the people, were in a religious crisis. After that, through the efforts of the great Kator, a high priest in the early Sassanid period, religious texts were collected and organized. Another proof of the religious authenticity that Kator introduced under the name of Zoroastrian Mazdisna is found in his stone inscription in Fars province, where he made Zoroastrianism the empire's official religion. But what happened to the religion of Iranians? Referring to Arthur Christensen's research, and also the valuable research of Avesta scholar Ibrahim Purdavud, Sassanid priests made multiple mistakes in the translation and interpretation of the religious texts, and in some cases, they misinterpreted Avesta. This issue was resolved through linguistic and lexicological research done by international scientists and Avesta scholars in the last few centuries, and most of the Zoroastrian texts were correctly translated and made available. At the end of the Sassanid era, according to the available sources, we encountered the creation of multiple deities, gods that had different functions, and even at different times, their use and importance underwent a profound transformation. For example, we witnessed the decline of the position of Mithra, the god of the covenant, fertility and war, and the promotion of Sarush, the messenger god, and one of the important allies to Ahura Mazda, the great god. In older texts, we can see many Aryan gods who lost prominence due to the emergence of Zoroaster, the Iranian prophet. Initially, their importance was reduced, but then they returned to their former glory after a few centuries. The significance of these gods can be seen in Yashts, the oldest remaining parts of the Avesta, which seem to be older than the Gathas, the scripture attributed to Zoroaster. We continue our journey to the second four-arched temple in this area. In a village called Rahmatabad, another four-arched building can be seen in the following geographic coordinates: 28 degrees, 18 minutes, 44 seconds north, 56 degrees, 27 minutes, 14 seconds east. Unfortunately, in the post-Islamic era, the spaces between the arches were filled with rubble up to a height of 1.2 meters and then filled with clay. Considering that the agricultural land invaded the limits of the four-arched building, it is hardly possible to state the exact dimensions of its area, but based on the evidence seen from the remains of the construction around the building, its approximate triangular dimensions are 97 by 76 by 72 meters. The outer sides of the fire temple are about 8.9 meters long, and its inner sides are 6.9 meters. Its approximate height is 4.6 meters. There are pits on the northwest and the southeast sides, which are most likely connected to the arches of the corridor surrounding the four arches. The remains of stone architecture can also be seen, which indicates the existence of other spaces that led directly to these four arches. The materials used to build the building include white limestone and plaster mortar. According to archaeologists, this fire temple had a religious use. Now back to our story. From a Christian Armenian priest named Kolb, who lived in the 5th century AD, there's a treatise called Against the Sects, which is in 4 parts. The second part of the treatise, called Refutation of Parsi Religion, has a special historical value in recounting the religious beliefs of Iranians during the Sassanid period. According to this book, Iranians believed that before creation, there was a being named Zervan, translated as Far, or splendor, and Bakht, or fate or fortune. He lived a stoic life for 1,000 years and made a sacrifice so that a child named Urmazd would be born to create the earth and the sky and everything in them. After a millennium, a doubt arose in his heart as to whether there was a point in his sacrifice and austerity. When the suspicion passed through him, he became impregnated with Urmazd, the god of good, and Ahriman, the god of evil, and he felt them within. When he became aware of both of them, he said to himself, "Whoever comes out first, I will give him the kingdom of the world." Urmazd learned about his father's thoughts and revealed them to his brother Ahriman. Then the demon tore open the father's gut and revealed himself. Zervan asked him, "Who are you?" Ahriman responded, "I'm your child." Zervan said, "My son is bright and fragrant, while you are dark and foul." At the same time, Urmazd came out and stood before his father. Zervan beheld him bright and fragrant and knew that his son was Urmazd. So he gave him the branches of the birch tree he held in his hand, and then spoke unto him that until now I have sacrificed for you, and from now on you must sacrifice in my name. We continue our journey to the next fire temple, which is in the village of Aliabad in the following geographic coordinates: 28 degrees, 20 minutes, 36 seconds north, 56 degrees, 24 minutes, 14 seconds east. Unfortunately, due to the length of the route and having visited the other 2 fire temples, we lost the light for filming upon reaching Aliabad village. The overall dimensions of the area that covers the fire temple is about 62 by 66 meters. The dome of the building and its western arch are in ruins, but after excavations, it turned out the floor plan was more sophisticated than it seemed, and apart from a corridor, there were other additions. There were probably halls on the north and south sides, whose traces are buried under the rubble today. We continue our journey to the west of Kerman province, to Shahr Babak, a city that lived prosperously during the Sassanid period. "30 kilometers northwest of the city, on the road to Anar, on a hilltop, the remains of Azadbagh fire temple can be seen in a village called Kator. The geographic coordinates of these buildings are as follows: 30 degrees, 22 minutes, 37 seconds north, 55 degrees, 0 minute, 35 seconds east. According to ancient and mythological beliefs, the history of its construction has been attributed to the era of the Kiani kings. The Kianis were a mythical dynasty of Iranian kings, and many stories have been told about them in Ferdowsi's Shahnameh. The fire temple building is made of stone, has a symmetrical plan, and is about 9 meters high. There are 4 entrances on each side of the building, and a small window is installed above each door. Its roof is made in the form of a dome. During the Safavid era, in the 18th century AD, when the Afghan forces attacked the weakened Safavid cities and made conquests without much of a fight, the ruler of the city of Babak, Mir Qutbeddin Haydar, bravely defended the city and was killed in the battle. His body was interred in this fire temple, bearing his name. Back to the story of Zervan and his 2 offspring. As previously mentioned, this belief was widely popular in the late Sassanid period. Ahriman, or the Beast, who wanted to rule the world, was born earlier than Urmazd, or Good, but was unable to inherit the world, and the rule was bestowed upon Urmazd. Based on this belief, the world is in a perpetual struggle to break free of the evil that lingers. This struggle will persist until the day that the world is cleansed of the malice caused by Ahriman. This belief may have come into existence to relieve the great pain the Iranians were suffering from when Alexander conquered Iran and wreaked havoc on the Achaemenid Empire. It was possibly at that time when their system of belief regarding the power of Ahriman and evil went through alteration. Iranians witnessed how Alexander, the agent of Ahriman, pillaged, burned, and destroyed cities, holy books, and sacred places. By destroying the freedom and nationality of Iranians, they believed that he overcame good. As Iranians confronted their defeat amidst ensuing chaos, their grasp of the fundamental reasons behind their downfall remained elusive to them, and they often attributed it to the mysterious workings of fate and time, showing them disfavor. The peak of this belief was in the late Sassanid period, and after the fall of the Sassanids, we can see the fading of Zervan in religious texts. One of the reasons for this can be found in the new religion of the Arab conquerors. Abrahamic religions emphasize monotheism, but the Iranian religion was inextricably linked with dualism from the beginning. In Zoroastrian Gathas, we come across the twin offspring quite frequently. This shows the belief in duality in the very distant history of this land. After the defeat of the Sassanids and the reign of the Muslims over Iran, there were inevitable reforms in the religion of the Iranians to minimize the gross contradictions between the worldviews of the Iranian religions and the religion of the conquerors. In the initial centuries after the Islamic conquest, we can see many debates between Muslims and Zoroastrians on dualism and monotheism. We now continue our journey to visit another fire temple in Kerman province. 56 kilometers southwest of Kerman and 19 kilometers from Nagar village, a beautiful four-arched building can be seen in the following coordinates: 29 degrees, 58 minutes, 45 seconds north, 56 degrees, 54 minutes, 55 seconds east. Nagar Fire Temple is undoubtedly one of the most intact fire temples left in Iran. This building is located on a hill, and in its proximity a tower can be seen on the top of the mountain, which may indicate that there are facilities and buildings in this place. Except for a section of the roof that has collapsed over time and a crack in one of its walls, the rest of the building has remained intact. The building material is a combination of mortar and stones, with layers stacked on top of each other. The plan of the building is rectangular and includes different parts. The front entrance space, which is a rectangular room with its long side attached to the four arches. The square plan of the four arches with a round vestibule. 4 columns with a square cross-section at the bottom of the arches, and a stone dome. At the end of the story, in this part of the documentary, it is worth mentioning that without a doubt, the Zervani movement was one of the philosophical manifestations of Zoroastrian Mazdism, which was founded in the Parthian era and established the foundation of Mazdean philosophy. This was an attempt to introduce philosophical elements into the Mazdean religion, opening the way for philosophical and religious debates. The basis of the philosophy of dualism was the priority of time and its antiquity, which was manifested in the presence of a great god. From a logical viewpoint, what could be introduced except infinite time, especially when a god was necessary to exist? A unique deity, eternal, without embodiment or other attributes, possessing all characteristics of a god to facilitate consideration and belief by all. With this primordial form, the problem of good and evil would also be solved. Good and evil were elements born into the womb of infinite time. Sometimes evil prevails, and sometimes good. What's important is that time has no intent in siding with any of these two conflicting forces.